Just follow your passion and you'll be successful. That's what everyone says, but trust me, passion alone won't get you anywhere. And in fact, following your passion at the beginning of your career, even at the middle of your career, could be the worst decision you could ever make in your entire life. But I'm not saying don't follow your passion at all. In fact, you should follow your passion. It should be one of your life's goals. But before you do that, you need to focus on these 3 things first. The problem with following your passion is that it skips the most important thing in today's world, which is to be useful. And most people are passionate about things that don't actually solve real problems. And if you're not solving a problem, you don't create value. And if you don't create value, you don't really matter. I know it sounds hard and harsh, but that's reality. That's why successful people focus on practicality, especially at the beginning of their career. They become successful by being useful. Then once they become useful, they bring their passion into it. So how do you become practical? By offering a service or a product that solves a real problem in a specific industry. And that's how you become useful and build leverage. You're useful as long as you help people solve a problem, whether it's making them more money or saving them more time or something else. But keep in mind that yes, you can use your passion if your passion is practical and helps people in some sort of way. And in my case, I've always been passionate about solving problems. And I remember at 15, I created an app after I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He was super frustrated because his phone was always full. He couldn't even use it. He had too many apps and not enough storage. He couldn't even delete these apps. It was these apps he was using all these apps every day. So I created an app, the name of the app, I remember, was Your World. It was an everything app. And in the app, you could message people, you could call people, you could organize your calendar, you could check the news. It was kind of, an everything app and way more, all in one place, in one app. And the idea was simple: simplify his phone, save space, and solve a problem that millions of people had. All this to say that it wasn't a passion project, it was a practical solution. And that's what you need to focus on. And if you're wondering what happened with this app, I remember I stayed for 2 weeks straight creating this app on PowerPoint until like 3-4 in the mornings. And I had school the next day. And I presented this PowerPoint presentation with all the pages of the app to a developer I was in contact with at the time, and he asked me for $50,000. So I couldn't really do the app at the time, but yeah, listen, maybe one day I'll do the app and put it out to the world. There is, however, one way that you can mix passion with practicality, but only if you are intentional. And that's what I did with fashion. I started fashion in Paris, not because I loved it, but because I had a clear goal behind it. I really wanted to understand how fashion products were designed, marketed, and sold. I had a clear why, a defined goal. And after school, I worked at Dior, where I learned everything about how the company works from the inside. From the design process to the marketing to the sales to the distribution of the products. And with all of this information and knowledge that I learned at Dior, I applied everything that I've learned to my company in Mexico. We used the same marketing strategies that Dior used to make billions of dollars every year, and in 6 months we became the #1 importer of French products to Mexico, just by applying the same principles in marketing that they used to make shit ton of money. Now, if you have a business and you're struggling to attract clients, I can help. So click the first link in the description to learn how I can help you implement the same strategies that I learned at Dior to your business. The same strategies that helped our business in Mexico succeed. Now, see how my passion for fashion was intentional. I had a clear why, a clear destination, a clear objective. I didn't just follow my passion blindly. So the takeaway here is to stop following your passion, without any direction. You need to have a plan, an intentional plan. So you need to focus on practicality, solving a real problem, and you need to be intentional, having a clear goal. Last thing you should focus on is that you need to focus on cash flow before passion. Money has to become something you don't think about, you don't worry about every day. Because when you're stressed about money, you're not thinking clearly. You're not taking any risk, you're not building, you're just surviving, and no one should live like this. That's why early on your focus shouldn't be on, doing what you love necessarily or following your passion. It should be to build leverage and income, and you do this by focusing on cash flow. And how do you build cash flow? By being practical and intentional. Once you've solved this cash flow problem, then and only then you can focus on your passion project, passion businesses, whatever you have going on surrounding your passion. But chasing passion too early without money, without clarity, without direction is a fucking trap. And even me, right now I'm building a cash flow business with a business partner. And it's not a passion business, it's not a passion project. It's a practical business, and I'm super, super intentional about it. I have clear goals, clear objectives, and a clear why behind this business. I'm not necessarily passionate about this business, but what if I'm passionate is to help people. And this business helps a lot of people. It's going to help a lot of people. And that's also one of the ways I funnel my passion into my more, practical businesses or ventures. And you should do it too. And yes, you guessed it, this cash flow business is what's going to help me build my more, passion ventures or businesses. I'll talk more about this business soon because I really want to document the whole process from, the failures, the successes, the wins, everything. So you can get inspired as well and start your own too. So I hope that you understand by now that following your passion at the beginning is an ignorable idea. It's not that passion doesn't matter, it does. But if you don't have a cash flow business, clarity, or any some sort of, direction, chasing passion is a trap. Right now, the focus should be on being useful, practical, and intentional. That's it. Because once you solve this cash flow problem, once you have leverage, these passion projects won't just be dreams, they'll be something you can actually build. So stop asking yourself, what am I passionate about? Start asking yourself, how can I be useful? And remember, you're not forgetting about your passions. You're just choosing to focus on what matters most right now. So when the time comes, your passion projects have a 200 greater chance of success. Now, if you already have a business and want to attract premium clients the same way these billion-dollar companies do, using the same marketing strategies, the same branding strategies, click the first link in the description. We'll have a quick chat to see if I can actually help you, using the same strategies that I use in my own business in Mexico. And also keep in mind that I don't work with everyone. It's a super selective program. So book the call and we'll see if we can work together.